name is Robert Ramsey, host of Masters in Music. Tonight we visit Phillip LaMarche in his home in New Westminster, British Columbia. Phillip has been playing piano and organ for many years, and over the decades he has developed his own methods of making practice enjoyable.
I have a certain amount of trepidation about doing this because I'm by no means a great pianist or anything. But I can claim the distinction, which I think a lot of quite brilliant pianists cannot claim, is that even though I'm getting older and older, and extremely old, I've now reached the age of 87, my piano technique continues to improve. And my whole approach has gradually changed from when I first started to try and play the piano, from one of doing what my teacher tells me to do or what I think I should do, to a more experimental approach. And I think this experimental approach pays off, and I have learned so much. And even this morning, I tried something. I thought about this before I sat down to do some practice, and it seems to me it's a good thing to do. Now, I'll just try and demonstrate it. I haven't worked on it. I'm going to make mistakes, and I can't use the pedals because I'm an amputee. But you'll have to put up with this. What can you expect for nothing? So, here goes. These are exercises which I have developed to help me with my piano technique, but more importantly, they help me and can help other people, some cases, not all cases to be sure, who get arthritis in their fingers. I suffer from arthritis in my fingers. That joint is a little bit larger than it should be. That's caused by arthritis. But now, in spite of my old age, my finger technique is getting better. But anyway, I do these exercises because I have a tendency to get this arthritis, and I can feel it when I do things like this. But that exercise helps it to go away. It'll go away as I'm doing it. This is a very good one because right in here I have felt arthritis right in there. So I do this and I do that, and then I do things like this. No, I can feel a little bit of arthritis right there.
And how long would you do these exercises?
Oh, just a minute or two if you feel like doing it, you know? And the main thing is that they actually work. It's not a thing that you have to keep doing and eventually it'll work. They work right away.
Mm-hmm. And so you would do those every morning before you start practicing?
No, I usually do them when I'm awake at night and sleep.
I see.
Yeah. Now here's another interesting exercise. It's not mine. One of my piano pupils showed it to me, but it's a good warm-up. I think it's a good idea. I don't do it, but I think it's a good exercise. Some teacher showed it to him. Okay?
Phillip particularly enjoys playing the Chopin etudes, and like any serious musician, he knows that playing them well takes a lot of practice.
Okay, this is Chopin's Etude No. 1, and I think it must be one of the most difficult pieces ever written, and yet it's like all his work, it's quite beneficial. And this part at the very beginning, I can play not badly. But I couldn't when I first tried this thing, and it took me a long time. And I found that analyzing and seeing where the problem is right there. So I made up that exercise. And if it gets boring, you can do this. All sorts of things to make it more interesting, give you more facility in general with the keyboard, help you to learn to improvise. This is the more difficult part of the same thing. Anyway, I fool around with the left hand because I think that helps to control the right hand, give the right hand more of a challenge, and to solidify your technique. Now, also, I've done this exercise. It's like just a plain finger stretching exercise, which helps with this because there's a lot of big stretches. So I do something like this. Because that interval there, if you can increase that or get more comfortable with that interval, it makes the whole thing slightly easier. Lately, I've been doing this exercise before I do this thing to see what effect it has on my touch. And I do this, and when I do that, I feel a real strain in there, but I like doing it because I think it does me good. And when I first did this exercise, I could only do it to here. But now I can do it to there. Okay. Then, after that, I play this again. Now, I experience quite a difference in my touch when I do that after doing the exercise. That's why I played it without doing the exercise before. And that, to me, is the value of experimentation. Well, for me, and I say you have to try things, and you have to learn to make a comparison before what you do, before you try, and the effect afterwards. That is empirical science, and I think it should be applied to the piano.
Finger exercises are an important part of Philip's practice routine.
Now, the reason I do this stretching exercise, well, I've tried to explain it, but it definitely helps me to play this difficult etude. And I think, and I'm firmly convinced of it for myself, I'm hoping to try and convince other people that if you want to improve your piano technique, it's essential almost to experiment. Now, you take piano lessons. Most piano teachers don't tell you to experiment. They say, well, that passage needs work. Practice it 10 times a day or something like that. Well, or they say play it slowly. Well, how slowly and for how long? And slow practice is great. It's very important, but it can also drive you crazy if you do nothing but slow practice. So, but I think that experimentation is interesting to a person. It's interesting scientifically because you do something, you see how you play before you do it, you do something which you think might help you, and then you play the same passage again, and if you notice some improvement, then you think, well, I'm on the right track for something. One of my teachers, Anatoly Zatin, whom I consider to be a tremendous, really great piano virtuoso, he's also now the conductor of the Symphonic Orchestra of Mexico City. And he is a truly great musician and not a bad composer also. Now, for Anatoly, playing this thing is child's play. He's such a great virtuoso. And for a person who has a really large hand, it's much easier.
Does he have large hands?
No, that's the point I'm getting at. He has much smaller hands than I have. But since the age of 5, he started stretching himself right in here. So that here, from here to here, this is the little finger is away over here. So you can see how much more of a stretch that gives you.
Oh, that sounds painful.
Well, he did it gently, when he was a child, and of course your muscles stretch much easier. Now, when I was in my 70s, I'm now 170 or something like that anyway. When I was in my 70s, I started stretching here, and I increased my stretch, and that really helped me for playing something like this. Now, the hardest part of this is this passage right in here. The hardest for me, and it probably is for everybody, unless they have a tremendously large hand or a very good stretch. And it's this part. It's the section there. So I've made up some exercises to help me with this, and I think they really do help me. So I do things like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Then I get a bit faster. Now, to me, the left hand helps to get a solid rhythm, but it also distracts the right hand, so you have to be more careful, and it makes it harder to play, so you slow down the tempo, and that, in my opinion, helps your technique in general. I also like to do things like this. Etc. I make up these little tunes, just really fooling around, but I think that they make my piano practice more fun. If I couldn't make it more fun, I wouldn't do it. I found getting a rhythm going in the left hand helps the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And then I increase the tempo a little bit by doing it in a 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's see how that. And then I do it in a 1. So that difficult part is gradually becoming more easy. I think I've just about got it now. Another thing you can do, which I think is really fun, because it sounds so interesting to me, is play a walking bass in the left hand, chromatically like this. Etc. Now, the second etude, which is hard, but not as hard as this one, although maybe to play it up at speed, it's very hard as this one. Now, this has helped a lot.
Mr. LaMarche emphasizes the importance of analyzing a piece of music before putting his fingers on the keyboard.
I think you should analyze it, and preferably before you even touch the piano, because it's surprising the things that you can find in a piece of music which will make it easier. Now, these chromatic notes are sort of hard to read when you're starting it and get under your fingers. Okay, but what do we have here? Each group of 4 notes starts with a major third. So it's, and it goes back to where it was at the beginning. And that helps you to learn it. Then you can add another note to it. So on. Well,
So what you're saying is break it down into its pieces.
Absolutely, yes.
The sections.
Absolutely, yeah. Now here again, the walking bass really helps this a lot. That wasn't very good. Okay.
Now by walking bass you mean you're moving up and down the left hand chromatically.
That's right. Well, it's a typical term for describing a walking bass in jazz. Okay. So, I think a lot of musicians would understand what I mean by that. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. And I found, looking through difficult music, that the analysis just makes simplicities just stand out on the page. And it makes it so much harder to read, easier to read, I should say, and also, of course, easier to learn. So I highly recommend that you do it. Well, here is, this is what Chopin, when he wrote it, he considered to be the most beautiful thing he'd ever written. Etude number 3 in E major by Frédéric Chopin. That's how it should go. Etc. Needs a lot of practice, as you can hear. But the right, well, let's look at the left hand first. It's just diminished chords all the way down. And then you start with the same chord up here, which a little analysis would help you. The same thing, you start with the same chord up here. The left hand is just diminished chords. Sometimes, well, diminished, okay, augmented fourth or diminished fifth. It's the same thing. There they are. Then you take that, stick it up there and get, you take that, stick it up here and get that. Another thing helps with this, if you could try breathing, especially like, well, phrasing really. Da 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 wrong. Da 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 da. Oh, okay. Here's without phrasing. Here's with phrasing. Now the phrasing helps it, helps the playing, because it's difficult to play. It takes a lot of practice to get used to playing those chords. You can do things like this. They're all good for you. That's it. Okay, this is a bass, which is basically the harmonies are the blues harmonies. The blues has two words. It means blues notes in the scale like this. That's one meaning of the word blues. Those extra little notes you throw in. So you have these three chords. And you do 4 of each, so you get the 12-bar blues. Now, this, in my opinion, is very, very important to learn because it's not just in jazz and rock music, it's all through European, American classical music. And those chords, those 3 chords, and the harmony, the minor, tonic, because it's on the keynote of the scale, subdominant, because it's below the dominant, which is that, are the basic bones of thousands of pieces of music, classical, jazz, rock, everything. Rock does them to death. So it's so you can adapt them to various interesting things. And here's one that I just did recently. Don't do it well yet.
Oh, just
And then after a while, I thought, oh, I can more interesting. Sir. Now, when I teach, I try to get students to do things like that because I think they learn the basics of harmony. You can study harmony out of a book, but most pupils study it out of a book, and they may do it well, get good marks, and then they forget about it. I had a piano teacher friend of mine in Mexico, and she asked me to look at. She'd started studying harmony again after about 20 years, and she wanted me to see if the harmonies were correct. Well, the problem with the whole approach is that she didn't apply the study of harmony to the music she was studying, because she would know without further study the harmonies were correct because she would be applying it every day in her practice. And I think that's very important. And you could take something like this and practice transposition. Etc. Okay? You can do other things. Here's a good technique for jazz. Just play that. Play anything in the right hand. And then resolve it.
Over the years, Philip has met many top musicians in the fields of the blues and jazz.
I saw the great Canadian jazz pianist Oscar Peterson when he did some of this. Well, he did things all over the place, which I can't do. But I noticed that when he did this, he played the thumb like this. So I tried that. I tried that on all sorts of things. And it helps. Eventually your fingers revert to their former position, but anyway, you can do these things from time to time and see how it affects your playing. And that is the essential message, is to experiment and to try and find things which you can be convinced of, because your playing demonstrates it, that they really help you. And that's much better, I think, than playing this passage over 20 times or whatever. One of my piano students did this exercise. He said a teacher taught it too, going like this. And I think that's good for relaxing yourself in here, which is very important. I believe he's Argentinian, Claudia Arrau, a great concert pianist. Whenever he sat down to give her a concert, he did this exercise. Let his hands just fall like that, relaxing his shoulders in there. These are very important, actually. Okay. In closing, I don't know whether what I'm been showing you and demonstrating and talking about is going to help you, but I think it should be tried. And it may be that it doesn't help everybody, I'm sure of that, but some people it may give a lot of help to. And if that's the case, then I feel the video's well worthwhile. And I'm going to keep on experimenting because I just love doing it. I wouldn't be bothered with practicing if I didn't get new ideas that I want to try out. So that's the message. I hope it's beneficial. I will take my hat off to all the people who have been with me in this presentation and their patience.
We thank Phillip LaMarche for inviting us into his home and for sharing with us so many suggestions for making practice fun. So, until next time, good night and happy music making.